Again, Dwayne Dixson is here with me from Danville, and he's got an original recipe. And I always get kind of excited well, so far we've had with my folks, we've had 3 brand new recipes that have never been seen before, and this is going to be some time. So let's get on with it.
All right, thank you, Doyle. Thanks for having me on today. What we're going to do is Mediterranean spiced creamy cauliflower soup. So it's a fairly simple recipe. However, you do have to do a little bit to prepare for it. We're also going to go into some of the ingredients that some of the viewers may not be familiar with. We're going to look at Greek yogurt or pseudo-Greek yogurt that we're going to do. Another portion of the recipe is about spices.
Oh, yes.
And so we're going to go through an example of setting up some of the spices that is used today. So I did want to go ahead and give you a little bit about the inspiration of the soup. I'm sure you're familiar with, if you cook a lot, that sometimes when you go to the grocery store, that things just happen to fall into the carts, you know.
Especially if you're hungry.
Especially if you're hungry. So you don't go to the grocery hungry, that's right. But sometimes you get it, and then as you get back home, you know, things happen, life happens, and next thing you know is like, wow, I really need to use that up before it goes.
Oh, yes.
So that was sort of the inspiration for this. And when that happens around the Dixon household, we do what we call refrigerator cleaning days, which is basically opening up the fridge and trying to see what's in there, and then using whatever information that you can think of, you know, what recipe can we get with that. So that's how this recipe started.
Good.
So let's first start with one of the ingredients that people may not be familiar with, which is Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt actually is a type of yogurt, but it's a lot heavier on fat content, and the consistency of Greek yogurt is a lot heavier.
Heavier and thicker,
right.
Yes.
So normally you can find Greek yogurt at some of the international food markets, like we had heard about World Harvest and the Common Ground Food Co-op.
Oh, yes.
I'm starting to see that now, but I can't always find it. So the way that I got around that was to take regular yogurt, right, and then we went ahead and we put it through some cheesecloth or a fine sieve. And what happens is the whey separates from it, and what you're left with is a really thick product that's a lot like cream cheese, basically, but it's nice, thick, and heavy, and it's almost the same consistency.
And has the good taste of
yes,
yogurt.
Exactly. So we'll be using that in the recipe. Now what I'd want to do is go over some of the spices that we're going to use.
Yes, you've got some complex spice putting together here.
Right.
I like that. That's very artistic.
So part of the thing was when you're preparing or you're doing a lot of things with spices, usually you do that a lot ahead. So what I usually have around the house are some prepared spice mixes, and that helps when you're making up the recipe. Okay, I know what I can grab out of the cupboard. So in this first case, the recipe calls for parts of the spices that's given in parts. And what that is to do is to try to keep the same ratio between what the spices are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this by weight, because if you look at these, at the different spices, the size is a little bit different. So what I try to do is give this by weight. So I've got a nice electric scale which goes down to about 1/8 of an ounce is the finest granularity that it is. And what you would do is you would take these and in this case the parts, so like the easy one is like 1 part coriander. So what I'm going to do is just pour that in. Of course, being prepared today, it's already been measured out nicely to the ounce.
Right to the ounce,
and so then you would just go ahead and portion those that you would have. Now, when you're dealing with spices, as we've seen earlier as an example, is we want to go ahead and toast those. And to do that, we're just going to put it in a dry skillet, no oil, over a medium-high heat. And this place will start to smell like a bazaar.
Oh, it will.
So we've got
Good
some
flavors.
pepper, we've got coriander, we've got cumin, we've got dry mustard seed, which is the yellow mustard seed.
And these are the whole seeds.
Whole seed,
yes.
Whole seed. And then in this case, we're doing the Greek inspired, and we're going to use a little fennel. So we've got some fennel here, and we'll let that go ahead and toast up a little bit, just a few seconds. Now, the way that you know that the spices are ready is you'll start to hear a little popping. And usually that's the smaller seeds, the little yellow mustard seeds.
The little mustard seeds, yeah, popping them.
Yeah, they start popping, and that means that everything's good to go. And you want to be careful so that you don't burn them. So you just need to be aware of that. So let's pretend that we start to hear some popping, right? So what we're going to do is then we're going to take a spice grinder, or otherwise known as a coffee grinder. That is only used for spice mixing. And we're going to go ahead and put some of those into the coffee grinder. Normally what you would do is that you would go ahead and let that cool. Some of the moisture content in the seeds itself could cause it to start caking when it's grinding.
When you're grinding it, yes.
Yeah, so you need to be careful of that. And also don't overload your spice grinder. So let me find there it is, little lock, and we'll just give that a quick buzz.
There it goes.
And it'll grind right up. This one has a setting for espresso, which is nice fine grind. So I usually let it go ahead and grind on out, and then we'll just flip this over. Give it a quick. So now what you see is you have nicely ground.
Let me give that a whiff.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yes.
Yeah, you can
oh
really
boy. Oh,
you
the
really
fennel.
smell the fennel.
The
Yeah,
fennel.
exactly. One thing that I like to do is I like to go ahead and put that through a fine sieve. When you're dealing with coriander or some bits with a little bit of husk to it.
There are, yes.
Yeah, so I usually like to tap it out a little bit, and what you're left with is a pretty fine product.
Now, you then go ahead and crumble these up again?
Yeah, so then I reprocess that.
Redo that.
Redo that.
I don't think I've ever seen that as an instruction.
Okay.
I think that's good.
Yeah. So, well, you get to maximize the amount of your spices, and then you get a fairly consistent product. So, in the recipe, it calls for an Indian spice, or an Indian-inspired spice mix, which is cumin, coriander, dry mustard seed, black pepper, and the Indian portion, that inspiration is a little fenugreek.
Oh, the fenugreek, yes.
Right? So if you smell it, it has a little sweet smell to it.
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
I can get that.
Almost like brown sugar.
I can get that smell. Yes.
So the second one is the one we just did, which was the Greek-inspired. So